Congressman, typically I wouldn't be asking you to agree with members of the Democrat Party in the House, but it seems like every Democrat is now publicly tweeting that they hate Joe Biden. Like the entire squad's up saying like our president is acting unconstitutionally, our president is acting illegally. They're going to join you in an impeachment effort. What's going on?
They draw the wagons in pretty tight, brother. And thank you for having me on. Last time I was on, my X account at Tim Burchett exploded. And one of my buddies who will go unmentioned in Congress, who's very outspoken as well, said, there it is. That's my mom. That's my mom and daddy's grave right there at the top there. There's a little rock on it there. So thank you.
Oh.
Daddy fought the Japanese. My mama flew an airplane during the Second World War, lost her brother fighting the Nazis. So they're buried in the same spot there. Mama's name and stuff's on the other side of that. But would have been her 100th birthday this week. Anyway.
Is that Arlington?
No, that's Knoxville, Tennessee, right there up on North Shore. It's pretty cool. Daddy was going to get buried at Arlington, and I told him, I said, it'd be cool if I could bring your grandkids by your gravesite. And I said, I doubt I could do that in Arlington. And he said, all right, let's just bury it. We'll do it here. And that's where we ended up doing it. So it worked out perfect. But anyway, back to the point. What was the point? I'm sorry, I got off talking about my phone.
You said that a member of Congress who's pretty outspoken was telling you a thing or two about our last interview.
Yeah. He was saying how I broke the internet. And I asked him, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he said, no, man, the Benny Show, that's rocking, dude. That is where it's at. And people back in Tennessee just were ecstatic that they couldn't believe that I was there. Anyway, and I appreciate you, brother. And the one thing I appreciate you for is you're putting the dadgum truth out there, man. And that's what these knuckleheads can't stand, is that when somebody like me, you know, the 435th most powerful member of Congress, there's only 435 of us, by the way, gets out and says the truth. And then somebody like yourself, you know, verifies it. And then, you know, I had this reporter yesterday say, well, aren't you putting yourself in with Madison Cawthorn and all this stuff? You know, after I said I wouldn't release the names of any of these people that said they've been blackmailed. And you know, you'd think a reporter, a member of the media would honor that. No. Right. Heck no, they don't honor that, you know, because this is the world. And please quit calling Washington, D.C. the swamp, brother. The swamp is something God created. Swamps are pretty cool, actually. You know, there's a lot of life in there and everything. This is an open sewer, man. This is something man created. It all just flows in and nothing comes out. And it's just stagnant.
Yes.
But anyway, no, man, this thing is blowing up out of control. I think more people are questioning who the heck we're electing to Congress, and they should. And it's not, you know, we come up here and we go home, honestly. Is it okay if I call you Benny? Benny?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Benny. We come up here and then we go home and throw the red meat out. Oh man, we're going to defund the UN. We're going to do away the Department of Education. We're going to stand with Donald Trump. And then what do we do when we come up here? Nothing. We sell our country out. We get insider trading information. We block any meaningful legislation that could stop that kind of crap. And then we run home and people are just like lemmings, you know, the little heads are up going, you know, and they reelect us. But now there's people like you out there telling the truth, and they're holding their feet to the fire and they're getting nervous, and that's good. And I got some pretty bad talking to about my last time on your show, but I hope I get more this time, because, you know, brother, when you're over the target, that's when they fire the most at you. They're giving me both barrels right now. I mean, I've got opposition that I was just reading an article in our local rag newspaper that is talking about my opposition and that, you know, because Burchett's making unfounded claims over things. Well, every day, I mean, you go from Epstein to anything. And I mean, I read an article today where a former high up in the FBI was saying how he felt like they were compromised by the communist Chinese. Now, you know, I mean, I don't know what else you got to do. What else you got to say, top to bottom? This trash can needs to be turned over. The voters get off your butt on election day and do something about it. And people ask me who won the debate the other night. Donald Trump won the debate the other night. That's who won the dadgum debate. He wasn't there. He didn't have to be. And I love it when he says my name. You know how he says my name? He goes, Burchett. I love it. They said one time that the guy said, I told the president how to say your name. He goes, hey, how do you say Tim Burchett's name? And so he says it, and he said he looked in the mirror and goes, Burchett, Burchett, Burchett. So every time I hear him say my name, I dig that.
Okay, so to all the haters and all the people, I understand how it works. You probably got brought in by leadership, and they said that stop saying that we're all blackmailed, and we're all having. There's like 3-letter agencies coming after all of us, and this is the headline. I want to put up one headline since you brought it up, sir. I want to put up the headline that you created that went sort of worldwide. The last time you were on the program, you said that there are congressmen who are getting blackmailed and getting drunk and ending up with attractive strangers, naked, or naked. If you don't mind me paraphrasing, naked. In a hotel room.
Yeah, I mean,
and lo and behold, sir, if I may, nigh on 3 days later comes an article from the same publication, Daily Mail. Elite clients of high-end brothel busted in Washington, D.C., unmasked as feds seek to charge 28 people with buying sex. The 28 are believed to be made up of elected officials, government contractors with security clearances, and military officers. God must have a sweet, ironic sense of humor, Congressman.
Yeah. He's about justice is what he's about, and that's what I'm about. And just for the record, I have no suicidal tendencies, and I don't walk near cliffs or anything like that. So if something happens to me on my plane trip home today, you bring this article up. But and I'm not saying every member of Congress is compromised, but I want to tell you something. When I was in the state legislature, I'm not a drinker or smoker or anything, but I would always hang out with the liquor lobbyist. He was a guy named Tom Hensley. He was the golden goose, they called him. And he'd say, I just represent tax collectors, Burchett. And he'd always have that big cigar in his mouth and his expensive drink of Jack Daniels. And, and he always was, the local liquor distributor was a friend of mine, friend of my family's, my dad's, and they'd always take care of me, but, it wasn't anything crooked. And he told me, he said, Burchett, he said, I don't need to control the entire legislature. He said, I just need to control one chairman. And I've always remembered that. It doesn't need to control the whole thing. You don't need all 435 of us, just key people. And we've seen the Chinese do this. They even have a plan where they go out and recruit people at the lower levels, like in schools, SGAs, colleges, small town city councilmen. And they get them at that level. They put out thousands of these things, these honeypots or whatever you want to call it, in the hopes that one of them leads them to the promised land. And you know what? They're doing a pretty good job of that. Pretty good job.
How is anything that you said controversial? We were delighted that the clip blew up. It was played on Jesse Waters' show and so forth, because you were speaking the truth. We were asking questions to get to the truth, which is the first step, right? It's our job to actually ask the question. But then you told the people the truth. How is this even remotely controversial when our own federal government is busting massive sex brothels outside of D.C., targeting members of Congress, government elected officials, and people with security clearances? And also our own FBI is doing offensive briefings, defensive briefings about Eric Swalwell sleeping with a Chinese spy. Along with multiple sex tape investigations that are happening on the Senate side and the House side. So there are ongoing sex tape there are pornos being filmed in the House and in the Senate, and people are calling you a conspiracy theorist or you an extremist for noticing these things.
Well, that's what they're using against me in my campaign back home. I mean, and this crowd, honestly, Benny, they're more concerned about their portfolios than they are the people. If it all crashes, or if America's doing great, they'll be waving that flag and doing great. But if it crashes, they're going to be buying up everything at bargain prices. And that's why the immigration issue won't get solved, because your national chambers of commerce are the ones that have blocked any kind of reform at our border. Why? They're getting free labor in their shops. They're getting, it's basically a lot of under the table They're great working people, but I tell you what, 100,000 children are missing in that system. And I've been told by folks about some of the stuff that's going on, and I don't fear the voters as much as I fear God Almighty, because
Yes.
he is gonna if we do not stand up for what's going on at that border, and I mean that with all sincerity, because there is some real evil that's coming down, and we as Americans know better, and we've got to tell man, the money changers are in the temple, brother. We got to kick them out.
Yes.
And I can't say that enough. I don't care if you're a Christian or whatever. I'm a Christian, but I lay awake at night. That's the one thing I worry about, is losing our country, and we've lost our soul with these 100,000 children, dude. And I've seen too many reports and talked to too many people in the know about what's going on with that, and we've got to. And that's why I appreciate folks like you, man. You are unhinged, and I dig it. And I dig it. I thank God that there's people like you, because our local media, not so much our media, but a lot of our printed medium is compromised. I mean, they're out. They've lost us, and they've left us a long time ago.
So they're simply servants of power, right? The corporate press are simply servants of power. It's their job actually to hold power into account. Instead, they take the paychecks, they take the 30 shekels of silver, and the payoffs, and then they betray us, the American people, by representing the powerful, and that's wrong. That's why we're really proud to be independent, and we can ask independent questions that people actually talk about when they're out for a beer with their friends. Like when people sit down at a bar, when dudes sit down at a bar and get a beer with their friends, like, did you see that thing about Bill Clinton likes him young, according to the Epstein documents? That's pretty sick. Are we actually run by a group of predators, an elite group of predators? Like, is this right? That's what got like dudes like ask questions like, we're like, wait, what's wrong with our government? That's what normal people ask, because that's really concerning to a parent. The trafficked children. This is like stuff that is really concerning to normal people, but reporters aren't normal people, and they have the wrong masters. And so there's so many follow-ups I want to ask on this. I guess we should start with two things. You've brought this up now twice in this short interview. Is there insider trading going on in Congress?
Oh, 100%, but it's legal. You know, that's the thing. Is it ethical? When I was mayor, somebody come in, some snake oil salesman, when I was mayor of Knox County, would come in as 2 terms, 8 years, paid down debt, did crazy stuff like that, paid cash for schools, gave people raises, and didn't have to raise taxes. And these snake oil salesmen would come in and trying to whatever, and they'd say, first thing out of somebody's mouth, they'd say, "It's legal, boss. It's legal." And I'd say, "But is it ethical?" Because legal is slavery was legal. I'd hate to compare anything to slavery. Horrible, horrible deal. But it was legal. But was it right? Hell no, it wasn't right. Sure. It was the worst thing ever. Yes. And that's what they're getting by with on this stuff. It's legal, and they block every bill. They just said, I voluntarily, my $7,000 portfolio, my buddy Tommy Seiler manages it for me, and he does very well. So, as you can tell, I come from money in my new Carhartt jacket. My wife got me for Christmas, but no, and that's a true story. I don't have individual stocks. I don't do that stuff. And we ought to get to that point. And, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Please. Here's the chart. This is publicly available information. There seems like there's one bipartisan operation going on in Congress. If there is a single bipartisan operation in Congress, it's members of Congress beating the S&P 500. I mean, look at some of your colleagues who are like Wolf of Wall Street. It's incredible. Why are they even in Congress, congressmen? I mean, they could be making a mint for J.P. Morgan or for one of the larger brokerages out there, right? What are they even doing? So you're telling me that this is all insider trading?
Not all of it. A lot of them, I know they have their own stockbrokers, and they have letters on file saying they have not told them what to do or how to do it. I suspect some of them are just.
But their wife can.
Do what?
But their wife can.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know what to tell you. I don't like it. I think you run for Congress, you make a sacrifice. You don't invest. I tell you the one that drives me crazy though, brother. And I get the mean looks and the and I don't give a rip anymore. I'm over it. We're going to lose our country, brother. Is the missile defense issue. You know, when we sent those missiles to Ukraine, which I voted against, by the way, I'm against all that. But there were several members of Congress on both sides of the aisle that just happened to own stock in the missile company, corporate, and then that had bought prior to that, before the big announcement. Because what happened was we sent our missile defense system to Ukraine, but by doing so, by the rule or the law or whatever, we had to replenish that missile defense system. So say we bought that thing a couple of years ago at a bargain basement price, probably got it on eBay for $4 or $5 billion. Good and well, dude, supply chain issues, it's gone up. So we had to replenish that. That's $8 or $9 billion, among friends. And then dadgummit, look what happened. And then there's my tweet about the 44,000 arms valued over $1 billion. They failed to be tracked by the Pentagon. The Pentagon, this is just such a crooked deal. And the Pentagon, man, and that's why one of my big supporters in Knoxville no longer supports me, because I made the mistake of calling them war pimps. And I said, their business is war and their business is very good. We put all this money over there. We're not tracking it. We apparently had a few $1 million in the thing we sent over, the $114 billion to track it. It's obviously not being tracked. The Pentagon gets audited in the history of audits, have never passed an audit. By their own admission, they are missing $500 billion in assets. Now, what the hell is that? What are their assets? Bullets, missiles, automobiles, I don't know, tanks, people maybe, but $500 billion. And then we rewarded them with what, $20 billion more this year? Benny, it's just crooked as we say in East Tennessee, it's crooked as a dog's leg, brother. And this is shady stuff. And when I kicked the hornet's nest, that's when I got a call from somebody who was very high up in the Trump administration on a Saturday morning. I'll never forget. I was on my couch. He said, "Brother, you have kicked the hornet's nest at the Pentagon." He said, "You need to get bodies around you." And I was like,
wow.
I don't know if I like the way that sounds. And
wow.
I said, "This is East Tennessee, buddy. I said, if anybody gets close, they know it. And everybody here is well, we believe in our Second Amendment. But, do I take that stuff serious? Yeah. Is it changing my lifestyle? No. But we got to get some guts, Benny. I'm not I'm out here like some conspiracy theorist, but everything I've said, as you've stated, has been proven over and over again. And to think that we are the best that we can be is just wrong. We've got to. Okay, well, there's another article.
Lawmakers, we'll close that one. Lawmakers traded defense stocks as Middle East crisis escalated. This from October 2023. Seems to be backing up exactly what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying, so just to break this down, I'm no financial expert, but if you're able to vote to spend taxpayer dollars to increase the value of stocks that you own, then that's actually how you get charts like the one we put up, where various members of Congress are beating the S&P 500 because the Fortune 500 companies can't vote to spend billions to increase market caps for their companies, right? They have to do it the old-fashioned way, hard work.
Absolutely.
So these members of Congress, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them can simply vote to increase the value of the companies whose stocks they share, which is something that Nancy Pelosi did famously with the CHIPS Act and then buying NVIDIA, right?
Yep.
She buys billions worth of, not billions, but millions worth of a Taiwan semiconductor company right before she passes an act to give that company a fortune.
Yep.
That should be patently illegal. People should go to jail for this, no?
Well, according to the law, they can't because we're members of Congress, and that's that needs to change. AOC's worked on a bill. I've worked on one. It doesn't go anywhere. It'll pass in the House, doesn't pass in the Senate. It's pathetic. And you know what? Voters, hold your people accountable. I don't care what party you're in. Hold them accountable. Dadgummit. It's just stuff like this makes me sick. And I can't tell you how many times you see stuff like this and you just kind of don't pay it any more attention because it's just so obvious.
So something that is also very obvious and that is obviously verifiably true is that our intelligence agencies and our three-lettered agencies raided all of Jeffrey Epstein's houses and took all of his CDs, all of his pictures, all of his images, all of his recordings, all of his hard drives. They took all this information and they have it currently. They know who the clients were. They know who was on the other end of these transactions. The only people that have ever been punished are Epstein himself and then Ghislaine Maxwell, but none of the clients were ever punished. The FBI has all this information. You've called for them to release this information. This is actually what got you in trouble talking about this the first time, but that's before we knew what Epstein was doing.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you back on the show because we were talking about this sort of in theory, Congressman, but now you've been proven right. We've seen some of these documents. We've seen some of the horrible things that have been done, and we've heard from some of the Epstein victims in their own words, in their own testimony. And so why would our CIA, why would our FBI be protecting a dead pederast? And why isn't there accountability for the people, especially Americans, who were clients of his?
Because the big boys and girls possibly that were involved that are on some of those tapes are very, very influential. And I say release them all. You know, if there's minors on there, blur out the faces, whatever. But let's get to the bottom of this thing. And we will never, ever get to the bottom of this thing because at the base of it, 20 million conservatives and I'm afraid evangelical Christians decided to stay home on election day. And elections have results. The trash can needs to be turned over. The sewer needs to be cleaned up. And until we decide where we got to put and you know, I know a lot of my conservative friends say, oh, Burchett, but they steal it from us. Let's put so many points on the dadgum board, they can't steal it. Get to the polls, challenge this stuff. You know, challenge your state legislature. The only laws governing elections in states have to be done by state legislatures, not judges, not county court clerks. Challenge this stuff and let's get to the bottom of it. Let's, you know, we keep electing these prom queens and we think we're going to get a pit bull and we don't. You know, the days, you know, and a lot of my detractors back home, they say the same thing. Oh, Burchett, you need to compromise. You need to get along. I say, where was the dadgum compromise when Pelosi was in charge?
Yes.
Only time they want to compromise is when we're in charge.
Yes. And
$34 trillion in debt is what this compromise has gotten us. And it just can't work anymore like that, Benny. It can't. We've got good people have got to stand up and get, I don't care if you play golf with a guy or a girl, or he's, you know, went to school with him, quit supporting these people that are letting our country go down the tubes. Cause it's just, it's too much, man. On my Knoxville office, I got a 48-star flag on the wall. It's behind me. I think I think we were doing this last time. That was on my uncle's casket in the Second World War. He was too old to go fight. He was a head guy at a little school, I think. He was in his 30s. He enlisted. They sent his butt home. He went back, ended up dying. He became a sergeant, went through basic training, became a sergeant.
Wow.
Died in the hedgerows. And my daddy said he would have been the type that had been president of university. Not these communists they have now, these left wingers that just allow all this woke stuff, DEI and everything else, but a legitimate guy that cared for the people and came from nothing. And he died. And every day I look at that, I think, man, I did not want him to die in vain. And I think about my daddy, gave 4 years of his life over in the Pacific to the day he died, when I would wake him up, I would have to do it by his big toe because he was in Peleliu. He was on Okinawa. There it is. He was on Peleliu. He was on Okinawa. He went to China and fought the communists. He killed people for this country. In my Knoxville office, in my house, I have several of the firearm guns that he took off of dead Japanese soldiers that he took part in killing. You know, I can't stress with you enough just how precious what we have is. And every time I look at that mugshot of Donald Trump behind you, I just think how far we've fallen, that they are they've armed our court system and weaponized, or whatever the new cool word is, against against us. And they'll continue to do that until we say enough is enough. We got to take our country back, Benny. We're going to lose it. And I can't stress that enough with you, brother. I'm sorry I went on too long. I apologize.
I did want to cover something that you put up.
There's my Uncle Roy right there. He's the one who died. That's a 30 caliber Browning. He's in his 30s right there. I'm thinking that's pretty cool.
Man, what a generation. What a generation of people. So he tried multiple times to enlist, and he was finally able to go over and serve his country. Somebody who was kicked out of the military in a plum position that was handed to him by his father was Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden was kicked out for crack use in the Navy. He had a plush PR job in the Navy. Couldn't even keep that job. He was kicked out. The best story. He blamed two black guys on this. This has been reported. He said that he bummed a cigarette off two African Americans in D.C. and they secretly gave him crack. And that's how that's the official story from Hunter Biden and the Biden family. Look it up about why he was kicked out of the Navy. So it's corn pop all over again, I think, for the Bidens. But anyway, that's not what this is about. This is about your tweet. You have a selfie with Hunter Biden this week.
Yeah.
There's you with the iconic Carhartt now. And there's Hunter Biden causing a circus behind you. And you said that Hunter Biden couldn't stand up to a woman that he doesn't own, right? That he hasn't paid for, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And he fled. He fled, pissed his pants, ran like a stray dog from that hearing. It seemed like a bit of a circus. You were there to witness it. Your thoughts on Hunter Biden this week?
Well, actually, this picture is when I was walking in. I took a little creative, but because when he walked out, I sit next to Marjorie, and I said to her, I said, he can't handle a strong woman. And then she said, you can't handle a strong woman. And, but anyway, so, and I walked in, it was kind of funny. I go to this little conservative group. If you're ever in DC, I would love for you to speak to our conservative breakfast that we have on Wednesday morning. You would love it. There's about 15 true believers in there from Congress, and you'll recognize some of them you won't. But I'm walking in, I'm getting texts that morning from breakfast from reporters saying, hey, have you seen Hunter yet? And I'm like, what? Hunter's not supposed to be there. The press knew about it. The Democrats knew about it. They had 4 chairs that were up front where nobody was sitting in. It was just and then I'm told later by a respected journalist, literally, that he's doing a documentary, and this is part of it. And the guy who's following, you don't see him, but he's sitting beside him, the purple or the whatever jacket.
Kevin Morris. Yep.
Yeah. He's the one who they're saying who now is claiming he's an attorney. He's his attorney, and he can't be called in for questioning because of, client privilege, whatever. And so, it was a clown show, and it was very unfortunate. And Jamie Comer, you can see just sitting there like, what are you going to do? The guy walks in, he walks out, and he's just playing up the press. And the press is a bunch of lapdogs. But there was one guy who kept following him and asked him what kind of crack he smoked, which I thought was kind of humorous. I said, oh, that didn't happen. And then I listened to it again, and I was like, sure enough, there's some old guy back there who just kept, hey, what kind of crack do you smoke? And it just kept, but I mean, it's pitiful, dude. The thing, this guy's that $20 million plus had flowed through this guy. And then the statutes run on his tax evasion, apparently on some of it. To think you and I mean, if you sell $500 worth of stuff on eBay, you're getting noticed by the IRS. This guy's into the millions of dollars. And they've set up 22 different shell corporations, 20 bank accounts, letters from banks saying, hey, they're not selling a product. And the Democrats, what do they say? Oh, what about Trump? He did all that. I said, yeah, he sold crappy ties and cheap steaks. I mean, he sold a product, let's be honest. And he was in real estate. This guy, he doesn't even try to hide it. He just takes it because he's influential, and he does paintings or something. I paint Bigfoots, and I can't get anybody to give me a nickel for one of my drawings of Bigfoot. So what the heck? I can't get one of these fancy art studios with some guy latte offering me to put my paintings up.
We'll take one for the studio. If you send me a painting of Bigfoot, Congressman, it will be hanging in the studio.
Well, it's more of a Sharpie of Bigfoot. I don't want to get out of my medium.
Your team is demanding that we wrap. There's so much more we wanted to get to. Your team's demanding that we wrap. Apparently, you have a plane that you're going to miss. One, you said that I just want to get this on the record. You said that Hunter Biden's made millions and nothing's going to happen to him. Do you know that Nancy Pelosi insider trades?
She makes money. I don't know. Her husband makes a lot of money. There's actually stockbrokers now. I was told by some stockbrokers that actually follow their trades. Mm-hmm. And they just mimic theirs. So, I don't know what she does. I don't care. I'm over it. The whole bunch this trash can needs to be emptied, Benny.
Yep.
And you're just the guy to help us do it.
Hey, let's do it. Flip it over. Make your flight, Congressman. God bless you.
Thank you, Benny. God has blessed me. And you stay safe, brother. And remember, Tim Burchett is not suicidal.
Okay. We'll see ya. All right.
Love you, brother. Thank you, man. And it's X at Tim Burchett. All right.
Put it up. Toss up the account. Make sure we get the follows. 125,000 people can't be wrong. Here is the account. Everyone go follow. And if you do follow, you'll see bangers like this. Tim Burchett with the CIA heart attack gun. CIA unveils heart attack gun. Battery operated gun that shot a dart. Frozen waters. Shellfish.
Yeah. I get the Benny bump every time I'm on you, man. I get a bump for my Twitter goes berserk. Thanks, brother.
See ya. Watch out for the heart attack gun.
You got it. See you. Bye.